You booked it, episode 190. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. I am excited to announce your new entertainment industry platform, the You Booked It community, is now free for everyone. Inside, you'll be able to chat and connect with Broadway performers, Emmy nominees, top choreographers, past podcast guests, and people just like you navigating this wild and crazy entertainment industry. Build industry relationships, learn how to create a successful entertainment career, and join in on live masterclasses with the industry's top leading professionals from Broadway and beyond. Tap the link in the show notes and I'll send you your invite link. And now, let's meet today's guest. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Austin Sora. Are you ready for this, Austin?
I am ready.
Brilliant. Originally from Toronto, Canada, Austin was most recently seen in the North American tour of The Phantom of the Opera. Prior to that, she was a company member with Bruce Wood Dance for 3 years. Other credits include a chorus line, BUGLISI Dance Theater, as well as pre-production for the Public Theater and Disney Cruise Lines. Austin began her professional training at Canada's National Ballet School and earned a BFA in dance from Marymount Manhattan College, where she also minored in arts management. Outside of performing, Austin is the development associate at Artists Striving to End Poverty, a New York City-based organization that connects visual and performing artists with children in under-resourced communities, teaching important life skills through the arts. Austin, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Like you said, I'm from Toronto originally. I'm a dancer. I started out as a ballet dancer, turned modern dancer, turned musical theater dancer. So
Yeah.
I've explored quite a few different avenues of the performing world, and I've loved every step of the journey. I've been based in New York on and off for the past 10 or 11 years, which I can't believe. The time just flies by. But I'm currently staying in Toronto with my parents during COVID times. It's been nice to spend some time with them, but I'm definitely eager to get back to New York.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's kind of been thrown for the loop during this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's kick it off straight away and get into this first section here. So, Austin, of course, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
My favorite quote, and I don't know who originally said it. I can't find it anywhere, but it is, "Proceed as if success is inevitable."
Oh, I really like that. I've heard, I think, variations of that, and I don't know if it's ever been on the podcast. And I think that's so good. Can you expand on that a bit, on how it's worked its way into your career?
Yeah, definitely. I found that in my career, I tend to get really in my own head. And I've realized that the biggest limitation in my life has been myself and the limitations that I put on my mind. And so if you just think about approaching anything in your life, whether it be an audition or an interview or even just an interaction with a person, if you approach it thinking that you're going to fail or it's going to be difficult and hard, you're going to approach it with negativity and fear and doubt. And if you approach it on the flip side, thinking this is going to be successful, it's inevitable, you just open yourself up to have fun, to enjoy the process, and just to receive so much more positive out of the situation. So I think that's just such a great way to go through life, just to proceed as if success is inevitable and good things will happen. If you believe that good things will happen, they will. And I just think it's a great way to live your life. So I'm trying to adopt it every day.
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly times in our lives when it's easier said than done, and I think we all get that. But I agree with you. Why embark on something or think you want to do something and immediately put a mountain in front of yourself? Just start doing the thing. And the time's going to come, the time's going to go, something's going to happen, and you're going to have really very little control on a lot of the circumstances. So don't worry about that stuff. Just keep moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's so important. And mindset is such a huge thing that I've just been trying to focus on lately. And it really, truly can change your life. Yeah. I think if you move forward as if success is inevitable, it will be inevitable. So I think it's been really helpful for me.
I agree. And let's get into this next section here. In Austin, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, being on that stage, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Yeah, so I think that one of the hardest things that I've experienced just on an ongoing basis is
Hmm.
the trap of comparison. And I think it's common among performers. And to be honest, I thought I was the only one who struggled with this because everyone, you don't know what anyone's thinking. Everyone comes across so confident and they're performers. It's what they do. And so I was just, when I started auditioning, I was like, how are these people so good at this? What is wrong with me? And that I would see people doing crazy tricks and turns and have these extensions for days. And that's just not necessarily things that come easily to me. And I would think, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. Look at all these people. But what I forgot was that I bring something unique in my own right, and that every single person has strengths and weaknesses, and you can't dwell on the weaknesses and compare yourself to others. And I think I've just started to really focus on my strengths and what I uniquely bring to the table. And that has really helped me overcome the comparison trap. And it's something that sneaks in here and there all the time,
Yeah.
but I think I've gotten a lot better at managing it and recognizing when it's happening. So I can say, no, we're not doing that today and moving on from that. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you brought up the comparison trap, as you called it, because like you said, I thought I was the only one. We all, as performers, for whatever reason, it's like this thing that like it's like the dark secret no one wants to talk about, right? But we're
Right,
all
right.
experiencing it, and I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's come up multiple times in this podcast.
Hmm.
But it's also because it keeps coming up, it keeps
Yeah.
reinforcing, hey, everybody, we are all quite literally the same in this regard. We're all battling with this comparison thing,
Yeah.
and that you need to talk about it. You need to realize that it's a real thing and that it also is a detriment to you as a performer trying to do your best work. It's okay to strive for things and get inspiration from things, but it's a slippery slope, and
Hmm.
it can get on the negative side of things and detrimental side of things pretty easily. And I think in today's world with social media, it makes it even that much easier to go down those comparison rabbit holes because it's quite literally a never-ending stream of people being amazing at whatever it is that you do. You can
Hmm.
always find that person that can do something better, right? You're never the best person. And you have to be really careful. Like I said, use it for inspiration and motivation, but be very conscious and aware of when it starts taking that negative turn.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially with social media, because it's such a platform for people to share essentially their highlight reels.
Yeah.
And it's a very curated, edited version of what everyone is going through. So it's not the full picture. And it's important to be mindful of that. So, yeah, everyone has doubts. Everybody is self conscious about things, and everyone has weaknesses, and everyone's human. I guess that's all it comes down to. So I think it's important to talk about it because, like I said, I thought I was the only one who was experiencing that. And it's definitely not the case. So I think that the more that we talk about it, the more that we can bring light to the issue. And yeah, I just think it's important to remember that you bring something unique to whatever room you're walking into. And I think it's important to own that and know that makes you special and that people will be excited to learn what that spark is in you.
100%. Thank you so much for that. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. So what's really funny is I started dancing when I was very little. I asked my parents when I was 3 years old if I could take ballet classes. So they signed me up. And after my first ballet class, I said, this is way too hard. I can't do it. I want to quit.
Mm.
And they said, okay, you can quit, but you need to finish the term first because you've committed to this. And they were teaching me that lesson. So I said, okay, sure. And I finished the term. And by the end, I said, I don't want to quit. I love this. I'm going to do this forever. um, so that was how it got going. But so I'm grateful for my parents that they didn't let me quit after that first class. But further down the road, I think the moment that just really stands out in my mind is I did a summer intensive at the Ailey School in New York when I was going into my senior year of high school. And I just completely fell in love with the energy of the city and all the possibilities there and just how many opportunities there were. And I had never seen anything like that before. And I said, I need to live here. So it was less so about I need to be a performer, but more so I need to perform in New York. It was very specific for me. So yeah, but I just remember that time in my life was so magical and full of inspiration. And yeah, it was just a great time.
Oh, so good. Love that. New York, there really is nothing like that place in
It's
the
true.
planet. Yeah, love New York City. And let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
For sure. Okay. So I think it's definitely when I booked the Phantom of the Opera. That was an
Mm,
absolute dream come true. And it was a long time in the making. So I'm going to try to be as concise as possible. But I had been auditioning for this show for years. So basically, the year that I graduated from college, I was auditioning for everything for commercial jobs, for concert dance, and for
right.
musical theater. And I was just going to everything. And I really loved musical theater, but I ended up getting a job with Bruce Wood Dance in Dallas, Texas, which is a modern dance company. And I absolutely loved it there. So I moved down to Texas, and our contracts were 3 or 4 months at a time. So between contracts, I would always come back to New York and go to the auditions and still keep my foot in the door because I knew that one day I wanted to move back. I wanted to still be familiar to casting directors and such. Every time I came back to New York, I would audition for Phantom, and they always seemed really interested. I would always make it through the dance cuts and then sing. And every time after I sang, they would say, great, what is your availability like? And I would say, so I'm with the dance company right now. I'm contracted for the next few months, and then I could be available. And they would always say, okay, cool. We actually are looking for an immediate replacement, but we'll keep you on file. And this happened for 3 years. So when the time came that I was leaving the company and I decided to fully move back to New York, I thought, this is so great. There's a Phantom audition coming up. I know they're interested. And so I went to the audition, and I was so excited that I could finally tell them I'm available.
Yeah.
And so I went to the audition and I danced and I got cut. And I thought maybe I waited too long. Maybe they were mad at me, all these things in my head. And I later found out that because I'm Canadian, they thought they learned more about me, and they learned that I was Canadian. And they thought that I couldn't join equity. So they cut me for that reason. And it turns out they were right that on my visa, I couldn't join equity. So I did a bunch of research. I ended up joining the union in Canada. And it was a whole ordeal that took months and months. And I told my agent, okay, I have joined Equity in Canada, their sister union. So now I'm eligible to join the union in the US. And
Right.
so my agent told Tara Rubin Casting, and they said, okay, great. When there's another opening, we'll call her in. So that was great. And I was so fortunate because a few months later, another dancer ended up leaving. And they called me in just to sing because they had seen me dance so many times. So they called me in to sing, and I sang. And then about a week later, my agent called me and said that I had booked the job. Yeah, it was a very long process, and something that it was a complete dream come true that I thought wasn't going to be possible. And then it turns out it was going to be possible, and then it happened. So it was such a long journey, but it was all the more fulfilling when it actually happened.
Yes, love that story. Yeah, the visa situation, that is no joke. It is. It
Yeah.
can make things so tricky. It can be so expensive, and it can take so much time. And you're really
Yeah.
just at the mercy of submitting paperwork and waiting. Yeah, my wife is
Yeah.
Australian, and we did all of the paperwork and things like this for getting her over, to the States and being able to legally work and green cards and passports. It's an epic thing to embark
Yeah,
on, but
it's a
I
big
totally get there.
undertaking. Yeah, but I will say, I think that through my visa applications, because you have to prove that you have work lined up and you have to prove that you've done these shows,
Yeah.
and I think that it's been so helpful for me to push myself outside of my comfort zone, to network and to really put myself out there, because I am naturally a pretty introverted person, and I don't know that I would be as willing to put myself out there as much if it wasn't so high stakes, because it was basically like I need to do these things to stay in the country. I don't know, it just seems like extra motivation for me, so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Very cool. And being on that tour, were you on the same tour as Jordan Craig?
I was, and I
Okay,
listened to your
cool.
podcast with him.
Oh, right on. He just popped in my head when I was reading your bio, and I was like, oh, I wonder
Yeah.
if they were on the tour. Very cool. He's a
Yeah,
great guy as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Very cool. All right, let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And look, it's kind of a weird time, right? We're amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. These are all great questions. So, right now, I actually started my own project called Studio A, because I realize that there are a lot of resources out there for dancers to teach dancers how to dance and
Mm-hmm.
what to do in a rehearsal, but there are such limited resources in terms of walking them through the logistical side of the business. And I've just learned so much coming from the ballet world and then going into musical theater and having been in the concert dance world. And they all require such different things outside of just being in the studio. So I'm trying to share my knowledge as in order to help people as much as I can. So I've started that project. It's currently an Instagram page and a blog that is at studioa.dancers is where you can find that. But it's been a lot of fun. And it's also been so great to see how other performers have pivoted and shifted during this time. To answer your second question, I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone else continues to do and create. And I'm just looking forward to the theater industry opening up again, live theater opening up again, and just to being able to see shows and be in a theater with people and have that shared experience. And I hope that as it begins to open up and shift, I think that what's been really exciting is to see how technology has allowed us to stay connected during this time. And I hope that will allow the industry to be more accessible to both audience members and to performers. Audience members in the sense of, we saw how successful Hamilton was on Disney Plus. And if there's a family in a very rural area who doesn't have the means to travel to a big city and get tickets for their family, that's such a great way to be able to introduce them to theater and allow them to experience that and to just share these stories on a broader scale. And then on the other side of it, I think that now with auditions being virtual, I think that opens up opportunity to people, again, who may not live in a hub like New York or LA, and you can audition from wherever. And so I think it opens up, it breaks the geographic barriers that were so prevalent before COVID. So I hope that it'll be more accessible moving forward. And I'm really excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, and in regards to auditioning, it's not just the geographic barriers, it's the economic barriers because it's expensive to
Mm-hmm.
audition. If you're going to live in New York, that's expensive to
Absolutely.
just be there. But even if you don't, you're like, I'm just gonna. There's a handful of auditions I want to do. I'm gonna fly to the city. I'm gonna do that. That's also a huge investment in yourself to
Mm-hmm.
get plane tickets, to get Airbnbs or whatever you're gonna do, and then food and travel, like all of that stuff. It all adds up, and there's just a lot of people. That's just not something viable that they can really do.
It's
And
just
with
not
the online
realistic.
world, yeah,
Yeah, especially for people who are just starting out in their careers, and it takes time to build relationships with casting directors
yeah.
and choreographers and whoever. I think it's going to be so much easier to put in that time and to build that relationship virtually. So I think that's such a great opportunity that's coming up.
For sure, I agree. And It is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round.
Yay!
I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
This is a great question. I don't think there's anything holding me back to committing to a career, but I think again that comparison trap was definitely holding me back from doing my best.
Yes, yes. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
So my mom used to always say to me, if I was going into any new situation, a new school or a new grade, she would always say, be a sponge so enthusiastically. And she means just absorb everything and just make every experience something you can learn from. And I think that is a great piece of advice.
I think that's fantastic advice. And it reminds me of that book, The Power of Now, with Eckhart Tolle, however, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, to be
Yeah,
honest. Have you read that book?
I have. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but that's by being present, it allows you and enables you to be a sponge.
Hmm.
And and I guess it even ties it back to the comparison game. If you are stuck in this feedback loop of comparison, it's hard to be present and to then be that sponge to
Hmm.
then move forward.
Yeah, exactly. If you're thinking about what that other person is doing, you're definitely not thinking about what you're doing. So that just a sign that you're not present. So it's a great reminder to just be mindful of that.
Yeah, for sure. And the third question, what is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
I have been trying to go on daily walks around the neighborhood,
Mm,
and that has been such a lifesaver for my mental health, just getting outside and getting moving. And I guess not having it be attached to any sort of dance class or I don't know. I just think it's so nice to take myself out of my environment and just shake things up a little bit. That's been really great.
yes. And the fourth question, what is your best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you found is helping your career right now?
Yeah, so this is actually going to be maybe a little bit of an unexpected answer, but Instagram, I have such a love-hate relationship with social media,
Yeah.
but Instagram has been such a source of connection for me this year.
Mm,
And I've been able to make connections with dancers who I had never met before. And we have, had conversations on there. I've learned so much on there. It's been such a source of inspiration to see other people's performance videos or to see what people are creating right now and just to feel like I'm in touch with people. And yes, there's definitely the flip side of that coin, which is the issues that we talked about earlier about it being not a true representation of people's lives. But I've really been grateful for the platform during this time. I think it's been wonderful in terms of feeling connected with people.
yes. And that's how we met each other and got connected.
Exactly.
There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, great example.
Yeah. And the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I think that I would have started taking voice lessons sooner. I didn't ever expect to go into musical theater. I always just wanted to be in a ballet company, and that was the end all be all goal. And I think I wish I had have known earlier to be more open to other opportunities, and musical theater being one of them. So I wish I had have taken voice lessons sooner.
Yes. And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in the industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I think the biggest thing is just to remember to always believe in yourself and to trust that you are exactly where you need to be. It comes back to what we were saying about the comparison trap and looking to your right and left and seeing maybe people are doing things that you wish you were doing or booking jobs before you or whatever it is. I think it just comes down to believing in yourself, knowing that you have something unique in your own abilities and just trusting the process because what is meant for you will not pass you by. And that's another one of my favorite quotes. So I'll just drop that in here as well in case people need a reminder of that because it's so true. Like you're on the right path and good things are coming.
Yes. Trust the process. That's it. Beautiful. And to wrap up this interview, Austin, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm on Instagram. My personal page is austin.sora. I'm also on TikTok, which is really funny to me because I feel very old on there. But yeah, I'm on there, both of them, austin.sora. I also have my website, austinsora.com. And as I mentioned earlier, my project that I'm working on, Studio A, is also on Instagram, which is studioa.dancers.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Austin just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with her. And also be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in this industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. Case in point, everything Austin just gave us throughout this entire interview, everything about the comparison trap. Rewind, listen to that. And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next guest. Austin, thank you so much for being here today. It's been so wonderful getting to know you.
Yeah, thank you. This has been so much fun.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to jump inside the brand new You Booked It community. Head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/community or tap the link in the show notes right now and take your career to the next level. Inside, you'll connect with your people and develop real industry relationships, which, by the way, this podcast has discovered is the #1 fundamental that creates long-term career success. Discover opportunities and join in on over 20 upcoming live masterclasses. Tap the link in the description of this episode, and I'll see you there.